This episode is brought to you by the RVA Podcast Network. Find more information at rvapodcast.org.
It's a new year, so you know what that means. That means a new season. It's season 4. Intro a little revamped. Microphone a little revamped. Branding a little revamped. We are now officially the Past BT. So welcome all Spotify, Buzzsprout, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and all podcast platforms. Here you're going to get a flavor of sports, music, tech, video games. Once in a while, we'll get an Ass of the Week and a new part that's going to be coming in. It's not mentioned on the season 3, but we do what's called Pass the Message. So definitely you want to tune in and get some good content on the Pass with your host, BT. What's going on? Hello, how's everyone doing? This is episode 287 of the Past BT. I'm your host, BT. Looks like I'm going 2 episodes straight because a few weeks ago I had a friend of mine on the show who was my mentor and practically best friend of just life. And this week I was given a task or two, and I'll get into that in a bit. But I do have another guest on the show. She has written a book. I'm gonna give a little bit of accolade, but she's new to this, so I'm gonna actually teach her how I do my podcast, which is, since it's called The Pass, I pass it over to the guests and I let them introduce themselves. So whenever you're ready, you can introduce yourself on the show.
Okay. Hey everyone, my name is Ramona Ragland, and I'm a published author, mentor, speaker, lover of people. I'm just here to talk about my book and share and just chat and learn and yeah, not a whole lot of exciting.
She gave the elevator pitch. So, as I always have to educate people on doing, I'm gonna add the other things that you left out. She is well educated. She did graduate from VCU. Let me make sure if I missed something, tell me if I'm wrong. I got your bachelor's. Like I said, this is her first book. Possibly gonna be writing more. I will. Yes. We did say this off air. She is a creative. Yes. We had this anonymous factor. She's gonna be fighting this through the show. Hopefully, our other guests don't cause chaos. But she's not a big fan of pets. But that's okay. It's gonna still make for a fun show. We're gonna make it a relaxing environment because I at least gave you the option of saying, "Hey, you got water," and you'll learn how the water factor is important because as you said yourself, you're looking to do podcasts, and so I'm definitely gonna give you fair reign on that as we go through the show. So as you mentioned, you do have a book that is coming out.
Yes.
Okay. What's the name of the book? And just a slight but well-based overview of what the book is about.
Sure. The book is called Ugly, and the book is about being honest about all the things that you would consider unattractive about yourself and facing those things and owning them. We have a tendency to suppress and to run from those things so that we can present polished versions of ourselves.
Right.
It's actually kind of harmful.
Okay.
So it's about honesty and openness about who you are, the good, bad, ugly, and using those things to bring out the best in yourself so you can function well in life.
Okay. All right. So now there are 5 chapters to the book. Yes. And it is, so I'm going to go ahead and, like I said, I'm a deep dive because as you probably are aware, you may or may not notice, I analyze, but I also just was like, okay, I'm gonna just go through everything. And I saw the cover page, I saw the breakdown, and I was like, okay, you good. Mia's appearance was made. She gave you the headbutt. Okay, that's fine. Y'all formally got reintroduced, but it's all good. We gonna still record. She just so I did see that based on the credit, you do have as your photographer Tierra Owens,
yes,
who is with Aesthetic Ordinance,
yes,
which is a coincidence because I actually know her and a couple of people through attending. Let me make sure I get the church name. Liberation.
Yes, my church.
Yeah, I visited there last year. I came to a couple of services. Yeah.
No
so
way.
I'm friends with Tish.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Love them both.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I know them. I know Jocelyn and I are pretty close. Yeah.
Small world.
Yeah. See, I was like, I can't say nothing I couldn't do it pre-prod. I'm
So
like,
exciting.
yeah. Yep. So yeah. So I've been to a couple of services. Pastor J gives good messages. So definitely big supporter on his platform.
Yes.
I'm Transparent Podcast. I just haven't been as often, and I'm accountable for it. But I do value the messages that I have gotten when I've attended. So I definitely keep up as I can.
Yeah.
So like I said, I saw those things and I was like, okay, we got to, we went into the dedication, to break down the thank yous. We got to chapter 1. Ugly Thoughts is where it started. And it's tough for me because I'm a journalist. I like journaling. I like blogging. I didn't realize how much I enjoyed blogging because I think you said this in the book where it was like, you're going to be a writer. Somebody may have said, I'm paraphrasing. It was like, hey, you may look at being a writer and you're like, yeah, okay, sure. And then you end up writing. So it's like, how did you feel about that? Like, oh, well, let me ask it in a better manner. I want to throw that as a wild question.
Sure.
When you had conversations with people saying you were going to be a writer and you kind of mentally shunned it out, and now you look at the full circle of you're on the cusp of, if not having a book being published, like how did that timeline paint?
So writing is funny because I've loved writing since I was a kid. It was a way of escape for me. It was a way of expression.
Okay.
It was funny because I stopped writing at one point.
Really? How long?
Oh, years.
Okay.
I stopped writing. And part of the reason I stopped writing, and it sounds ridiculous, but it's real, is because of the honesty that came forth when pen touched paper.
Okay.
And, I'd gone through some hard times. Sometimes when you go through really difficult stuff, you're like, just being here is enough.
Right.
So, I don't need to see any more of it.
Right.
And even still, and so at that point, I was writing, songs and poetry. I still have not returned to that yet.
Okay.
That will be so.
All right.
But nobody was surprised. What was funny is when I hadn't been writing, do you know people would randomly give me journals as gifts all the time?
Okay.
So people be like, oh, here's, happy birthday or whatever. And every time I would get a journal, I was like, okay, God. God's been wanting me to get back to writing for years, but the timing just
didn't work.
I don't know that I was ready.
Okay.
Because I'm not a writer and I don't think any genuine writer is this way.
Okay.
Is you can't fake write. You know what I mean?
Right.
You need to be ready for whatever comes out.
Yeah.
Nobody was surprised.
Okay.
Everybody's like, about time.
Yeah.
Everyone around me who knows about my love for writing and my gift for writing has been waiting for this.
Okay.
It's been spoken over me for years about a book, and I've known that there was going to be one, but nobody was surprised. And as a matter of fact, people were like, so you're finally gonna submit now?
No pun intended. You finally gonna pull the trigger? Let's get it done. Yeah, no, I get you. I get it. Wow. Okay, so we're gonna unpack that because, and this isn't me giving off my personal, but it's also just reality.
Sure.
As I'll say, guests of the audience of the show, folks that have known me for a while. I'm the writer. I'm the writer pusher. I push people to write even if they don't want to write, but I also know if it ain't your thing, I can't make it your thing. But I know for me personally, writing has always been my passion. Oh, by the way, I told you already, Baloo will be in the show, so just let it happen. But in hindsight, once you realize that it's a gift that you have, you can't stop writing. Like right now, I keep a weekly blog, which some people still are like, you haven't taken a week off? No. And that's it's good that you have folks that saw, hey, let me get you this journal. I have a journal that I've been back and forth with every so often, and then I got another journal that's called writing prompts. If you haven't gotten that one yet,
notes.
Yeah. I'll when we after the post show, I have it with me. I just haven't written in it because I'm still waiting on. I'm that person that I can't write in another journal until I finish the. Yep.
I'm a bit type A as well.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, see, there we go. See that's why you're supposed to come on the show. Now it all makes sense. So yeah, that's good. So that's good that you had folks that saw it even when you weren't seeing it, and that's a big plus.
Yes.
let's see. So I did see, you know, and it was one point that stood out, and I'm not sure, this might have been in chapter 1. Like I said, my workflow a little backwards, so bear with me.
Sure.
I did see that you may have a false idea about yourself. You want to break that down for me?
Yeah, so I think that one is in chapter 1 for Ugly Thoughts.
Right.
I mean, look at social media, right?
Okay.
Like, I think that's probably the best example to demonstrate what I'm talking about, is you can be whoever you want to be.
Absolutely.
And I think that's fine, right? We all do it, don't we?
Right.
Like, I'm going to post the prettiest pictures of myself. I'm
going to look like I'm the baddest person out here.
Right, like,
I look like I got a whole great life going on.
Right, like you're not going to see the crud in my eyes and like my hair not, you know, looking at least decent, right?
Right.
And I think that's fine for presentation's sake, but some people believe that about themselves.
Okay.
You know, they believe kind of the veneer about themselves. I think that's one piece of it.
Okay.
Is that sometimes we believe there's no fault in us.
Okay.
The other piece is, which I think is the other extreme, is that some people believe nothing good about themselves. And both are detrimental. And I don't know that we're always ready for the balanced view of ourselves, right? Where it's like, I'm great. Okay. But like, there's some trash here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As opposed to always, you know, it having to be one or the other.
Okay.
And I don't think that sometimes we understand that we've adopted views of ourselves until we're in dysfunction.
Right.
Or until we're in places where we have to consider maybe something might be off.
Right.
But a lot of times I think we end up in dysfunction because we have false views and expectations of ourselves, no matter what extreme you're on. And that can come from a number of sources. Right. But that's what I think is you have to be willing to be honest about yourself, to yourself. Good. And that can include good things too.
Oh yeah, true. You know? Yeah. Okay. And it's funny, like saying that's the statement that I constantly come back to, and I think I've almost written a blog about it almost every month. All right, time to do a self-reflection, self-assessment. Let's break down, and it's like, yeah, these good things are going on, and I'm acknowledge these, but these are also some things that I need to look at and work on and build upon. So yeah, that's good, and it's important to look at that and based on that false idea. So that's a good breakdown of that. I did read the other part, or another statement that stuck to me was, there is a better version of you available. Yeah. Chip at this, you gonna learn quick, and I'm telling you this now. They know what I sound like, so they come to hear you. So I'm letting you unpack.
Okay. I think that fear is a very powerful thing. Okay. I think fear debilitates a lot of us in our pursuits. All right. And even for myself at one point is being afraid to be better. Okay. Because that means you have to abandon what you know about yourself. All right. That's scary. Yeah, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
We're people that like comfort, right? Yeah. We're okay with new things as long as we can still hold on to what we know so that we can kind of like inch out and still feel okay about ourselves. Right. But we don't like the letting go of ourselves because that's what we know. That's we don't like to be out of control. And we don't like, you know, we want the better version of ourselves that makes sense to us. Okay. But we still also, you know, we're complicated in that way. Like, it's going to require sacrifice. And yes, sacrifice requires work and things, but sometimes the sacrifice is the abandonment of who you won't let, of who you refuse to let go of. Yeah. So for example, you know, I'm on a weight loss journey to becoming healthy. That's awesome. Right. But that means that with that is going to come a stronger version of myself mentally, emotionally. What that means though is that as I move forward, some things and people and whatever I can't take when I end up at point B. And sometimes we get afraid of what it's going to cost us to be better, and we don't want that. Right.
That's tall. That's a tall order.
It is. It's scary.
And because that becomes, and I think you might have said that within, if you did or didn't, I want to make sure. It's almost like the resistance to change or just the battling with self.
For sure.
Okay. All right. All right. Before like I said, matter of fact, I'll hold those for other sections because I got a few thoughts that I've looked at, but then we here for book, so I want to make sure I get book content in because I telling you, I had some. I was working on notes. I was like,
I appreciate this.
I'm sitting here like, hold on, let me write. Okay, we got to get into this. Let me see what this is about. Chapter 2. Yeah. Hardest part for me to read, personally.
Yeah.
I have a fear of rejection.
Mm-hmm.
Exposed, accepted, acknowledged, but it can be worked upon. I saw it, and it was a statement that was made that people were probably going to be triggered by this term. Mm-hmm. Why did you feel that?
Because I think rejection is the root of. I mean, this is probably, it feels extreme, but I just believe it. I believe rejection is the root of everything.
Okay.
Like all of our issues. If you look at whatever somebody's issues are,
right.
I believe that you can always trace it back to somebody not wanting them, somebody not feeling unwanted.
Okay.
It's a deep thing, right?
Right.
Like it's a deep thing when you feel thrown away.
Got you. Okay.
Even if it's the perception that you were thrown away. That's a deep cut.
Yeah.
And I don't think there are many things that cut as deeply as that. Rejection can manifest in different ways, right? Mm-hmm. But I think because it's such a deep thing, and we're a people that like to be accepted.
Right.
We're created to be, in community with other people and to do life with other people.
Right.
And everybody, who doesn't want to be accepted?
Yeah. I
think there's a difference between like seeking validation from everyone, and enjoying like that you're accepted, right? Like you don't want to be around people that are like, "Hey, you're trash." Like who wants that?
Yeah.
Everyone wants to be accepted.
Right.
It's just more people have more balance around that piece than others.
Okay.
But I think that because we weren't created to be rejected.
Right.
And so when we are. And we are people that were created to love and to be loved. Mm-hmm. And when there's something that cuts off that purpose, regardless of where it is in your life, that hurts.
Yeah.
It shatters. It does it every day. It shatters people's identities.
This is true.
Every day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a heavy weight. It's a heavy experience to encounter. Yeah. And mine always comes back, and people think I'm silly when I say this. I've played basketball off and on for a long time. We'll just say that.
Yeah. And
so part of playing basketball is you could be trying to go and score, and somebody's waiting to defend you or block you. Mm-hmm. That block happening is a form of rejection. Mm-hmm. And for some people, it's like, they just blocked your shot. You can just go again. And I was like, no, you don't understand. I'm not trying to be rejected. I'm not trying to be blocked. But it's ironic. It's very coincidental because I was talking to someone this week who brought this in of that's life. Like you're going to have points that are going to happen where, hey, this thing is coming up. Cool. You finished it. Mm-hmm. You got this next thing that you can work on. It might not go the way you wanted to go, which means you could be rejected from it happening. And you just got to be ready for what the next step is and where life is going to carry you next. So yeah, rejection is definitely huge. You did mention this already, which I had it as a note. Rejection takes our lives. I think you said that.
Yeah.
Did you? Okay. Rejection equals being thrown away. I'm gonna be quiet. I'm gonna sit back on this one because this is good. This is the content right here.
Yeah. So this actually, I had two things to say really quickly about what you just said, and it ties in.
Yeah, go ahead.
It ties in, so it's a good segue.
Okay.
Just because I think there's clarification that's necessary.
Mm-hmm.
You do not have the right to tell somebody what rejection should feel like to somebody else.
True.
So, in the book, I give examples, and some examples sound stupid.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be something like, someone didn't choose me for a group project.
Yep.
And so that may sound silly to someone else, but for another person, that could be a devastating rejection. Right. So I just want to call out, often we see rejection in these huge, big productions and this huge, yelling of, I don't want you.
Right.
But sometimes it's in subtle things that can make you feel rejected. And so I just wanted to say that for anybody that might be listening, don't downplay how you feel because it doesn't make sense to someone else.
Okay.
And yeah, the definition of rejection is around being thrown away, which is a perfect segue into the other thing I was going to say is that rejection typically, there are two pieces of it, right? There is your receiving the feeling of rejection, and then there's an actual someone rejecting you.
Right.
And someone rejecting you, blatantly saying, I don't want you, is painful. I think sometimes though there is a redirection of things.
Okay.
And so I think sometimes circumstances come in life that make us feel rejected.
Yeah.
When really sometimes it's a redirection.
That's putting you in a better position.
And I don't like that cliche. I know it's a cliche kind of saying, but it's true.
Yeah.
Is it sometimes like you don't see the whole picture, so you can't consciously make a decision to go down a specific path.
Right.
And sometimes it requires a circumstance to push you where you need to end up. And so that was the other thing. Yeah, I mean, that's really what rejection is. If you're talking about an actual someone has rejected me, it's really an I don't want you.
Right.
For whatever reason. I'm not even saying the reason is bad.
It could just be a reason in general.
It is just a simple I don't want you. Some people do, some people are too much, right? And they will genuinely like throw you away. But it's an intentional kind of like, no.
Right.
For whatever reason.
Okay. All right. Leads to my, so, and like I said, I'm going down this line literally as I was reading this. I was noting this all. And you probably like, okay, you really was paying attention to some stuff.
I'm with this.
I know. I that's why I'm flowing with it. So there were 3 components of rejection.
Yeah.
I'm going to just name them, and like I said, and before we go back, because I know I put rejection takes all. Well, every issue. Did I even say that? Every issue known to mankind comes from an issue. Did we talk about that?
Yeah, I think every issue comes from a source of rejection.
Okay. All right. So the 3 components of rejection. The seal of rejection, the reality of rejection, the illusion of rejection. Which one is, before you break down each one, which one do you think people really have the biggest conflict with unintentionally?
I think the perception.
Okay.
Or the illusion of rejection.
All right.
And again, it's not taking away from how somebody feels. I think your feelings are valid. I do also know your feelings can lie to you.
Right.
So again, feel what you feel, right? We're just not typically productive with our feelings. That's the problem.
Right.
But the seed of rejection is kind of tied to, indirectly, I would say, to the thoughts that you have, right? So this is somewhere, somehow, you have received like an illegitimate identity about yourself. So it could be, typically, I think this happens as kids.
Yeah.
Again, let's say, there's a book, well, not for
No, you good.
Depending, let me.
Yeah, no.
There's someone that you like as a child,
right?
And you reach out to that person and, send them a little note. Like, do you like me? Yes, no, maybe.
Yeah.
And you get that no back.
Right.
That could be devastating to someone as a child.
Yeah.
That the person they want doesn't want them. That could be a seed of rejection. It could be an adult saying, I didn't want you in the first place.
Yeah.
It could be, it could be an older sibling, older cousin, somebody abandoning you.
Right.
When you expected them to be there. Could be a teacher saying you're never going to be anything. There are lots of different examples, and that is a seed that's planted. And typically, my opinion and my experience is that children don't have the awareness or the fight to even counter that.
Right. Because
children are sponges, and they don't know until they need to be taught, right? So that's good, bad, whatever.
Okay.
And it could be when you're older, but I think it typically happens when you're younger, that there's some seed somewhere. But wherever it is that someone has received,
right,
some sort of seed that has been watered and nurtured, and sometimes the watering and nurturing, especially as adults, becomes I'm not good enough.
Okay.
And so every time you reinforce that, like, you're watering that.
Right.
And it may not feel that way, but that's what we're doing, and I've lived that, so I can talk about it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's why you got the book. That's the purpose of sharing this information.
That's the seed of rejection. The reality of the rejection is it is what it is.
Right.
Sometimes someone is legitimately, I don't want you.
Okay.
And that's the fact of it. But then there is the illusion or the perception. Again, it doesn't discount someone's feelings, but it's not necessarily the scenario you have in your head is not necessarily reality.
Right.
And let's use social media again, just because I think there is a lot of imaginary scenarios.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of there's a lot of people who inadvertently carry alter egos or alter personalities.
Yeah, I think, for example, let's say that, you post something and it happens to apply to me.
Right.
I may be like, oh, so he's talking about me now?
Yep.
You going to air my business now?
Yeah.
And then I feel away.
Yeah.
And something like that can make me feel rejected.
Yep.
Or, well, oh, you posted this picture with this friend? Well, where am I?
Right. Yeah.
And these sound like stupid scenarios. They're real. I've lived them and I've seen them. And so for me, that is, but then when you have a conversation about it, you're like, oh,
I don't want to talk about it.
That was, or you find out like the reality. That's not what happened.
Yeah,
you're
true.
like, oh, oops.
Let me sit back and.
Right, and then you wasted this time feeling a way that wasn't even justified.
Right.
So I definitely think there's some illusions of rejection. Again, your feelings are valid, but a lot of times what we want to do is be emotionally reckless. We want to feel things and like put out these invisible vibes and expect them to be addressed without actual conversations.
Authentic, yeah. Okay. All right. Before I go to my next topic, everything you said, it made me think of a statement, and rest in peace, Kobe. But it was a statement that he brought up on a video that was 100% valid, and it was basically he was told by a guidance counselor, "You wouldn't amount to anything. You're not going to be important." No, it was basically along the lines of you weren't going to be. You shouldn't become a basketball player. You're not that good. This, that, and the third. And it's like, okay. Like, it's almost that whole, okay, I want you to go back and see, here's what I've done. But yeah, he could have taken that, and I bring that up because he could have taken that moment and ran with it of saying, you know what, maybe I'm not good enough to be a basketball player. Maybe I shouldn't make this my career. He wouldn't have had to, we wouldn't have seen the 20 years that we saw of him and everything, afterward. Season versus reason. This part, oh my gosh, this is probably gonna be this is gonna give you a moment to get your thoughts. And everyone who's listening, like I said, I do want to make sure I do mid promo. Please check out the book. It's the
pre-orders will be available next week. The book is actually coming out August 28th.
Okay.
And I'll share the website and stuff with you.
Nice. Okay, no doubt that'll work. But yeah, season versus reason. That's why I did that. You podcast ready? You all right? We go. Like I said, I'm still gonna give you that podcast breakdown too. Like I said, we're still kind of chipping away at chapter 2 a little bit. Season versus reason. Do you personally think people do well with distinguishing the difference between the two, and why? Okay.
No, I don't. Because I think it requires maturity. And I think, we're in such a, everything's
Microwave.
gotta, and, we also are in this place where we don't want to work in relationships. We don't want to work in them. We don't want to discern anything. We want it like, can I call you B?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. I'm acting like
no, you good. No, that's you on the show. That's that.
So that'd be like, all right, B, we're cool. We're gonna be cool forever.
Yeah.
Period.
That's it. Yeah. Period. Yeah. Can't forget the period.
All period. And so I think that's fine if that's the case.
Right.
But are you okay with it if it's not? And are you okay with still allowing that to be productive while it's here?
Right.
No, it's typically the answer. We typically want, okay, this person's here. They're going to be my bestie forever. And that's it. We don't like work. And the fact of the matter is that some people, I believe, and in my experience, listen, I have people that I love dearly, and the seasons have changed in our relationships.
Absolutely.
Where we were talking all the time, but now we don't. We talk maybe every few weeks. And see, the thing that we don't know how to handle is we don't know how to disconnect without being bitter. We can transition.
All right, that's the end of the show. We're gonna. There's a lot of transparency that has occurred at the 28-minute mark. If you'd like to just leave your thoughts and ideas at the.
Thanks everybody. This was fun.
Wow. I can't drop the mic. I paid a lot for it, but okay. Just break that. That was wow. Can you repeat that again? That was
we don't know how to disconnect without being bitter.
Okay. Yeah.
We don't. we don't know how to transition. So like me personally, so there was a time where, you know, everyone had access to me. What do you need? I'm trying to, you know, and that was fine for the season. In the things I was doing and the way I was functioning is fine. Right now, though, I can tell you a solid 4 people who have very intimate access to me.
They got full rights.
Full access.
Yeah.
What do you want? You can call me whenever. What do you need?
Right.
And you can get whatever of me when you need it.
Yeah.
That's a huge jump from like everybody who can anybody who ever needs me to that.
Yeah.
Right. So you can imagine the transitions that took place in relationships.
Absolutely.
And so even I had to learn, like, there can be space and there be no issue.
Right.
Because as I've matured, I've realized that I've needed space from people.
Yeah.
And it didn't mean that I didn't love you.
Right.
I am focused on goals right now.
Yeah.
And my time is consumed with me being productive as opposed to talking to 10 people all day for hours.
Yeah.
It's a different place for me. I'm in a building place.
Right.
So my focus not only has to be on my own building, but I have to be around people that can support what I'm building, who understand it, and who are also building.
Yeah.
Because if not, you're gonna abuse what I'm trying to build.
You can pretty much knock my building down and
not 'cause
inadvertently.
You want to. Yeah. You can have the best intentions and do it.
Right.
But we don't. We don't. It's okay. Like, what if you're really busy? What if you're exhausted and like you just don't have maybe you just need some time to yourself. Like, it's not always this deep like kind of things. I will say, on the other hand, should you notice behaviors if they change? Sure. Right. If you know you have a certain dynamic and behaviors change within the context of your relationships, you do evaluate that. Yes.
Right.
Sometimes things just start to change, and that's okay. We've got to learn to be okay with other people needing space. You know, if you need space, it's okay. But if they need space,
it's not okay.
What's the problem?
Yeah.
Well,
yep.
Like, when you need to breathe, it's okay. And so I've learned that, like, because what happens, and I've experienced this, like, if there's distance or space, my mind just it would go.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And I'd start reevaluating everything I ever said or did. What did I do wrong?
What did I say?
Oh my God. Oh my God. This is why they're upset. Man, they're still upset about this. Oh my God. And then, like, for someone like me, like, I would feel like I need to do something to make up for it. Like, y'all ain't had no conversation. Like,
yeah.
So for me, like, one of the things I live by, and I hold myself to this, is if you don't communicate a problem, there is no problem.
Right. Okay. That's fair.
Communication is a whole nother conversation, but yeah.
We'll do that for when you return on the pass.
Yeah, I'll be back.
Because then that would probably be like a whole separate.
I feel like
breakdown. Yeah. Because like I said, communication can be done without saying anything sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's even down to, like, my friends know me easily. Sometimes time and space is our best friend. It's like, I need time to hang out with you and we can kick it, but I also may need space. Hey, let me breathe. Because I don't know if it was not last week, the week before, I did a blog literally talking about the check engine light.
Yeah, that's good.
When that hits, yep. I'll share the link. Trust me. Sometimes, and I've learned now, like, moments are gonna happen where you are like, y'all are exhausting me, and I need a moment. But we got to know how to deal with that.
And can I say this other thing too? Is that people are not your savior.
Okay.
And that's another issue we have, where we want people around all the time.
Yeah.
It's because we sometimes want people to be available to save us.
Right.
That's codependency, by the way.
All right, I got that as a.
So
I'll
pause there.
Yeah, that was in there. That's because I want to say that was in 4. Was it 3 or 4?
3.
3. Okay, 3. All right.
Or no, 4.
It was 4.
3 was habits. 4 is relationships.
took me a moment. One other part in chapter 2, because like I said, chapter 2 probably, like I told you and I warned you, that was chapter 2 hit a little heavy. Yeah. I did get, you made reference to feeling like you were the queen of suppression. Let's explain that to the audience, how that, like, what that entailed or what that looked like. Yeah,
I mean, I think it's self-explanatory, but you know, to suppress something is to push something down, to kind of hide it, to avoid it, run from it. And I was good for that because, you know, like I said earlier, sometimes, like, the pain of something is just enough.
Right.
Then you're talking about having to work through it.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm cool.
Yeah, like, you know what, let me just You know what I'm saying? Oh, I feel the stigma. We'll push it away. You know what I mean?
Right.
Kind of an out of sight, out of mind thing. But what people don't realize is it doesn't go anywhere.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If you, this is a random example, but like if you just put food down the garbage disposal, you don't turn it on. You just put it down there to pretend like, you know.
It's doing something.
Guess what? Eventually, it's going to fill up and it's going to start, you're going to start to see it in your sink.
Yeah.
Like if you don't do anything with what you're trying to hide, it's not productive.
Right.
And that would manifest in a few different ways, you know? People who randomly pop off, like I would have random like pop-offs or meltdowns. I just
went through that, like literally yesterday.
Yeah, I get it. I would indulge in bad habits to try and, deal with the pain. Because see, the thing that people don't understand is the pain is there either way.
Yeah.
It's there, whether you think you're putting it away or you're not. It is still there, and it is always going to have to be dealt with. It's a matter of how you deal with it.
Right. And
if you don't, it's going to deal with you.
Yeah. That's all valid. Wow. All right. So we running, but we're not gonna run because I want to we got, like I said, 3, 4, and 5 were like 3. I think 3 and 4 had the heaviest hit, and correct me if I'm wrong, 5 kind of was like the wrap it home, like bring it home and break it all down.
Yep.
So 3 we're gonna give a good amount of time to 2 because
3 was
3 so before I start, and I'm saying this because I can, and this is just how I was about the show. I got to 3 and I started reading, and I was like, I have notes, but I'm not putting any notes down. And then I was like, wait, I'm being selfish. This is not this is something that I need to assess, and we really need to get into it. And it was looking at the unhealthy coping, looking at forms of healthy coping, even healthy habits. I'm gonna go into everything, but one point that was brought up as a healthy habit is dream. And this is a random question.
Yeah.
And like I said, you go with it as you feel. Why do you think people are afraid to dream?
I think that people are afraid to think about what they can do.
Okay.
I think again, it goes back to, I think there's fear. I think sometimes people feel like dreaming is a waste of time because sometimes people are so conditioned to their habit. And sometimes people are so used to defeat that dreaming hurts. Because when you feel like you're so used to losing,
right,
that it's almost like you're inflicting additional harm unnecessarily upon yourself by entertaining something that in your mind will never happen anyway.
Right.
And I think I think dreaming requires faith too, right?
Okay.
So I know we make faith this kind of sweet, like it's just there.
Yeah.
Faith requires work, though.
Faith requires a lot of work.
It does, and I also believe that when you dream something, you see it, and if you believe that somewhere that's something you can do, I think there is a degree of accountability.
Right.
Because I don't believe you can see a better version of yourself or a career that you want to do or whatever. I don't think that you can see it and connect with it and just be okay at the deepest core of you and never do anything about it. I don't think you can rest. At some point, you won't have rest.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That dreaming, not dreaming leaves ideas on the table, and dreaming gives you that opportunity to push for greater and better. All right. So, unhealthy coping.
Yes.
I'm gonna just name them off, and like I said, this is you mainly. And I'm doing this way because, like I said, reading the book, I got the main hits of it. I don't want to give anybody any direct information from the book because that way they read the book and they can really see where you were going. Because if nothing else, and I want to be clear, I say this, you made it clear that you were being very vulnerable in this book.
Yeah.
And that's important because as a writer, vulnerability can be your make or break in how your idea is presented. So that's why I'm telling things and I'm like, okay, it's not that and this is in no way that I didn't read anything. It's mainly that I got the main bullet points that stood out from what was talked about, but not sitting here saying, because it was one point that I may end up reading just to read it, because when I read it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like an intense conversation. And I'm sitting here like, she gave it to me as a read only. And I'm sitting here trying to copy. Tech moment, don't judge. any of my techies who listen to this podcast, if y'all don't edit, don't send me a message because I know what I know. But okay, unhealthy coping. You had alcohol, drugs, sex, food, shopping, isolation. And I put isolation in emphasis because it is a very unhealthy coping mechanism that made me assess. Among some of the others, but I think isolation definitely. I'm not gonna say put these in order, but which one do you feel is a product, maybe a challenge that people really don't want to acknowledge or face more?
Man,
yeah, I'm on that spot. I won't go sit down here and be like, I'm not gonna give you the easy. Oh, let's break down alcohol. Let's break down drug. No, we go because I mean it's doable on each one by far. But
I think that
based on who your knowledge and even experiences,
I would say isolation.
Okay.
And I would say that isolation can actually make way for the others.
Okay.
Isolation is easy because you get to run. We like to run, right? We like to run from things. We like to avoid things. And, it's the place where nobody sees your trash.
Right.
Because typically when we end up in really bad spots, a lot of times what comes with that is condemnation and a lot of shame. And it's not towards any specific thing. It's just whatever it is that you may have gotten caught up in. It doesn't. I'm not even saying, talking about like, oh, you've been doing something wrong. Right. It could just be a terrible life circumstance that's tough for you. And vulnerability, I think, is difficult for us.
100%.
And I think it's difficult for us in healthy ways to acknowledge our need for people.
Okay.
And, one of the popular things that I've heard, and I've said this lots of times in my life, is I don't want to be a burden to anybody. And I don't want to bother anybody. And, just what I'm dealing with, like they're out here winning. Yeah. And it's almost like, and the intention is sweet, but it's really kind of like a perverted version of love. Like,
right. Yeah.
Because I love you, I can't show you this. Yeah. Because it's, I want to protect what you're doing.
Right.
I don't really. I understand that the mindset can come from a loving place, but in real loving relationships, friendships, there is safe space to show those things. And I believe if you really love someone, you'll show those things.
Right.
With wisdom, right? Like I'm not saying like like hey, day one, like hey,
going on here doing my thing. Hey, like, I ain't gonna throw the soundboard. Don't worry, News. Got gas on. Don't want you. They'd be like, wait. See. See now, look, you relaxed. See, that's the point. I want a relaxing environment. But yeah, you're right. That's true.
So I think isolation, and sometimes we like to run from ourselves.
Yes.
So I think isolation is surely an easy thing, and in my experience and the people that I've been surrounded with, I have certainly seen a lot of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I know, and I did put this as a note. All of these steal from you, and they all steal from you in like their own way, and they're very strong. Do you want to expound on that a little bit, or is it kind of self-explanatory?
I think it's self-explanatory personally. Whatever your vice is,
gotcha.
Right? I may not have mentioned somebody's vice, but I think that probably captures most people.
You covered about 90 to 95%.
Yeah, I think we're in the 90s.
Yeah, but I mean, if it's other ones on there, that's just you as my group calls it, the 2%. That's you facts. in that section. See,
facts.
Just calling it what it is.
So I think whatever anything. Listen, I mean, think about how you're dealing, right? And how is it contributing to you? Is it adding to your life?
Right.
If it's not, and if you're using even good things as coping mechanisms, chances are it's stealing from you.
Right.
There are some things that directly won't steal from you. So, for example, like I enjoy going to the gym, and there are some days where I'm not with it.
Yeah.
But like that is my release for me.
Right.
That is a good coping mechanism.
Yeah.
Now, if I start to starve myself and I'm going to the gym maybe, 2 times a day, 7 days a week, and I'm starting to get extreme, that can then damage me.
True.
Right. So I think as long as you're using, healthy things in healthy ways,
Okay.
you're good. But typically, if you're using, we're typically trying to numb pain, and things that numb your pain
are
not typically productive for
Gotcha.
you.
Okay. All right. Helpful assessment.
Listen, we all got something to assess.
Yeah, like I said, before we roll, like I said, before we continue, I know, like I said, I always talk about the assessment. At first, assessments was happening quarterly. I know when I do my year review, that's always hey, let's break down how crazy this year was, and I'm like, all right, now assessments are almost daily, if not weekly.
Yeah.
And it should be, because it helps you kind of, as we all are trying to do, become a better us.
Yeah.
It's funny because you said we're going to do communication as a separate podcast, but then you put healthy coping. Bullet point 1, communicate.
Yeah.
And the other 3 are acknowledge your feelings. Don't let your feelings lead you completely. Go to therapy. Explain the importance of therapy to the listeners, please.
Yeah. So I used to not really be for it, and this is a very popular thing. I've heard this even recently
In the Black community, or just overall?
Black community.
Okay, that's what I'm. Thank you.
I do think that it is outside of our community, but I've definitely heard it.
Okay, I got you.
I don't know this person, so I'm not finna share my business.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna share, my life with this person. And I agree with wisdom. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So the advice I would say for that is, everybody can have discernment.
Right.
I don't know if everyone exercises it well, but everyone can have discernment.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you feel that thing that's like, I don't know if I really trust you, then trust that. And that includes with therapists. Just because you're licensed to do it does not mean that you are the one for me to execute.
Right. Because you had to find one that fits your style.
Yeah, so that's one thing I would say is there can be someone for you. They're not all the same.
Right.
But for me, I do go to therapy. And I chose to do that because I found that I had some tendencies that were not healthy that I wanted to work on. And some of my tendencies did not match up with the life that I wanted, and did not match up with the woman that I saw myself becoming.
Right.
And I felt like, and I've been through a lot specifically over the last few years, and I felt like I had some effect from that I couldn't necessarily dice up myself. And so, I have amazing friends and great support, right?
Yeah.
And so it's not that I didn't have people to lean on. It is helpful, I think, to have someone who's not attached to you.
Yep.
Someone who is also a professional and has studied the mind.
Yeah.
Who has studied behaviors. Someone who works with other people that can establish trends that they have personally experienced. And so I think that extra expertise is helpful.
Right.
I have not found it to be harmful for my life. It's been helpful.
Yeah.
And so, I told somebody recently, it does not mean that you just go to therapy when you have problems. If you're only going when you have problems, it may be too late already. And damage has probably been inflicted. But if you go, even when things are not bad, what you can do is you can put preventative measures in place, either to prevent like emotional breakdowns when problems come, or maybe you can prevent problems altogether because you're learning how to deal with yourself.
Right.
I think it's so important. You want someone outside of yourself and outside of your circle to share things, share what they see. And for, sometimes, my therapy sessions are not always super deep.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's, I just need a space to talk. And that's it.
Right.
Or sometimes she'll ask me questions. I'm a teacher, so like I get it. Is not a teacher of kids, by the way, but
yeah.
It's sometimes they'll ask you questions that you didn't think about to help show you another perspective of something.
Right.
I highly recommend therapy for everybody. If you are employed full-time, your job actually may sponsor an employee assistance program where you may actually get free sessions and get referrals for therapists and things. With COVID, I know there are some mental health counselors and therapists that have actually offered services for free.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Because of people who are in binds because of COVID, and this is kind of a traumatic time for people.
Oh yeah.
So I think if you're really interested in being well and you're open to the idea, you can get a taste of therapy, and I think everybody should, especially Black people.
Right. You said everything simple and to the point for that one. Before I get to healthy habits, I will ask one key question with healthy coping because it did pop up as I was listening.
Yeah.
And this is just a coincidental question. Mm-hmm. Communicate or communication.
Yeah.
Which do you think people have a harder time doing? Listening or knowing when to speak?
Oh, easy. Listening.
Okay.
We are, I hate to use social media so redundantly.
No, that's reality.
Just it's low hanging fruit. It's really the easiest example that everyone can understand. I mean, we're experts in our own worlds about everything. Yeah. Even if we're not really.
Right.
Like, we're the best at everything in our own worlds. We're constantly on platforms and in positions where we're sharing what's in our mind all the time.
Right.
And listening is not always easy. You know why? Because you have to sit and be still, and we don't like to do that. We want to just spew out everything all the time. Listening requires that you consider someone else's point of view. Yeah. So listening isn't just hearing the words out of someone's mouth. It is considering what they're saying. Right. And we struggle with that. And you really want to know how I know we're struggling with that. If you look through your social media timeline with some of the current state of affairs, I can tell you there's a lack of listening. Yeah. Because we like pissing contests. So we
want to see who can yell or scream the loudest.
Yes. Who's right about a thing, who presents the best argument. We're not really interested in, this is how I feel, but what do you think? And instead of us being so quick to defend what we always feel so threatened and so attacked. Right. Like, someone can have an opposing view, but like, maybe you can learn from it. Yeah. Maybe you can help educate someone, but we both have to be in the posture of listening. Right. And a lot of times we just like to bump heads because we so badly are passionate about being right instead of being productive. And that is where listening, I think, is our issue.
Okay. Yeah. And I'm not just saying just because I'm the communicating addict, and I think people are confused. Like, even one of my guests here has had conversations with me, and we've gone into discussions, and it's been an interesting thing of, she would talk and I would go through my whole port of just listening, and it was like, did you hear me? I was like, I was listening. Sorry.
And we have to be comfortable with how other people communicate too, right?
True.
It's another thing is like, listen, I'd love to talk for hours and not have to listen to anybody. Yeah. I can just talk, and like, you get to cater to me with your ears.
Right.
But like, listening requires discipline. Yeah. It really does. I mean, I find myself in situations sometimes where even if you have the answer, sometimes not saying it. Like, you have to consider another person. Like, so like I said, I'm a teacher. So I'm very passionate about self-discovery. Okay. And I can have the answer. But like, if you're like, hey, Ramona, I don't understand 1 + 1. Like, I can say, hey, it's 2. Right. Or I can listen to you and find out why it's such a struggle and help. You know what I mean?
Guide you towards.
Listen to that process of yours, because it's your process, not mine. Right. And I think if we leverage communication to work with each other instead of as a weapon, we'd be so much better off.
True. You're right. That's what has become more important now than ever. Like, and that's why like I told you, doing a podcast like this is different, because normally blah 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 blah, and I'm like, nope, I get to sit back and relax. I can just learn and listen and just take in information. And like I said, it's not just me saying, I agree. It's like, a lot of it, they are valid thoughts. And this might be one of those shows that I'm hoping people will listen to and actually go back and re-listen, because it's some messages, and it's a part that we're going to get to. I tell guests at the end, but it's a fun part we do on the show.
Yay.
So we got a few minutes, and I have healthy habits. I'm not rushing these, but I know you said, if we push an hour, is it a big deal?
No.
Okay. Just I always ask.
Yeah, you're fine. Thank you.
So yeah, healthy habits, no problem. Healthy habits are pray, exercise, write, and journal. We both have talked about that. Praying is very key, and knowing how to pray, I've learned, is very key too. Serenity prayer just got introduced to me a couple of months ago, and that was an eye opener. Challenging yourself at work, meeting new people or reconnecting with old friends, having fun, doing new things, finishing projects, reading a book, and most importantly, dreaming. Which would you personally say may have been one that you had a hard time with doing more of?
Man,
told you I'm gonna give you these.
Honestly, I struggled with all of those, to
Okay.
be quite frank. And even still today, pushing myself to, for example, doing new things is something I enjoy doing, but is difficult for me to do.
Right.
I'm funny because I love people, but at this space in life, I don't do a ton of interacting with people.
Okay.
But even meeting new people at one point was awkward for me.
Right.
I do really well with people, for the most part, but like sometimes that would be awkward. For me, I think overall doing anything new was a challenge for me.
Okay.
And I think the thing about doing something new is that it builds confidence. Because it lets you know there's more to you than you think.
Right.
There's more to life than you think. I think it helps inject hope into your life. Now, what it requires you to do though, is with regards to doing new things, you have to conquer some fears.
Yeah.
You can't, and maybe this isn't everybody's struggle, right? Some people can I'm just gonna do something new every day and it's awesome. Yeah. And that's great.
That ain't your lane.
That's not my.
Yeah, no, I got it.
It's not my thing. Like for me, I have to either be with people who are doing things that I don't typically do, and then I'll end up doing something new that way. And be like, oh, okay, great. Or sometimes I really have to push myself. If it's me by myself doing something new, that's where I have to push, because it's interesting when people are not around you. You have to deal with you. Yeah, it's you. You know what I mean?
It's you, your time, and your mind. Yeah.
You can't deflect.
Right.
You really have to deal with kind of this. Like I've been like, this is stupid. Why is it so hard for me? I don't get. It could be and it sounds stupid. So don't judge me. We're family. Is that if I'd want to go to a new restaurant, but I didn't have anybody to go with. Right. Like for me, I would be like, okay, I'm gonna go and try this new restaurant, but then I would get so afraid and I wouldn't go. Yeah. And so like little stuff like that, I would struggle with for sure. Real talk, like prayer at one point.
That was hard.
Yeah. I love the Lord. I'm very close to Him.
Right.
However, there was a period where it was tough for me, and that's a whole nother conversation as well. I will say though that prayer is not as complicated as sometimes it's presented to be. Okay. It's a simple thing. Right. And, even now, sometimes I have to make sure that my understanding of the simplicity and the power of prayer is still intact. That I haven't allowed, or if I identify a place where I need to unlearn my idea or thought or perception of it. Right. And I have to revisit that. So yeah. Okay. I know I didn't pick just one thing, but man.
No, you good. That was.
I was on the struggle bus for a while, bro.
That was the point. So, to be clear, questions are sometimes left to be not necessarily the solid one, but also to get you to get more information. Yeah. I always give this as an example, and we're gonna get to chapter 4 in a moment. Mm-hmm. But I always give this as an example. A couple of years ago, and this has kind of been my podcast template. Angie Martinez did an interview with J. Cole. Mm-hmm. Anyone that knows J. Cole don't like to do a lot of talking. He's kind of like, hey, I ain't gonna talk about much. I want to do my music and be left alone. That was helpful for me because as a podcaster, you're the main person. You got to talk, and it's like, No, excuse me, sorry. That was like in mid-show. As y'all know, my show, we work on audio editing, the perks of audio, Adobe Audition. It was fun because Angie asked questions to him to just let him just fly and go. And that's what I do. Yeah. I've learned to do now. So like when you answer a question like that, I'm not gonna be like, just give me this, just give me the safe. No, I want you to really be in that position. Like, I gotta actually break this. Yeah. And that's what it's about, is just giving like a very broad discussion on how you feel about your number one, your book, but also about these topics and what what you were pointing out.
I like it.
Yeah, so that's simple, to the point. Chapter 4, another one that kind of had a little bit of hit. You talked about this through most of 1, 2, and 3, but I know it was something that came up. It did come up about the power of fear. Yeah. And I got the other parts, but I want to, because that's set, and I put it in italics. So it just was like, okay, let's power of fear and how real that is.
Yeah. It's a real thing, and I think all of us somewhere have some fear that we have to deal with.
Right.
It's like if you burn your hand on a stove, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are really 2 different ways you can approach the stove next time. You can either never cook again.
Okay.
Or you can be aware and just try and, avoid the mistake or the scenario. Yeah. Typically what we do is, I'm not going to cook again.
Right. Or be reckless and say, I'll touch it again just to see.
That's a whole different
All right. So, hey.
Listen, I've been there too, though.
Person.
Listen.
Guilty.
Okay. Done it before. Both my hands are raised. Okay.
Okay.
I've been that girl too.
Context. That's all I'm saying. But.
Facts. I've been there too. But I think fear, I think why we, fear makes sense.
Okay.
Which is why I think, so like if I have been damaged by some scenario, whatever yours is, and that's over, and I end up encountering something that looks like that previous scenario, help me with my train of thought. I knew where I was going.
That's the perks of the pod.
I know, right on the spot.
On the spot.
Live. Thankfully, I don't get embarrassed easily. So
no. But you're also comfortable with doing the show, so that helps out.
Yeah. Fear. Oh, that's what I was going to say. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Is that it makes sense for us to reference what we know.
Right.
And so if from two situations that look the same, if in one of those situations I was hurt, then to me it makes sense to expect to get hurt again. And so that fear drives my behavior. I think there's also a difference, though, between identifying trends and noticing these sorts of things are probably not good for you. You should probably stay away from them, as opposed to just having a negative experience.
Right.
I think they're different. And I don't know that we decipher those either. And honestly, some trends you're not going to identify until you're in situations multiple times. And can look at your behaviors. But fear makes sense to us because fear relies on our logic.
Okay.
Fear relies on our previous experience. Those are tangible things that we already understand.
Yeah.
But if I've been hurt, let's use relationships, for example. It's a very popular one. Mm-hmm. If I've been hurt and now here comes this man who wants to love me to life and who will never hurt me. If my history is damaged, then love doesn't make sense to me.
I'm blocking it off, right? Yeah. It's the mindset, yeah.
It doesn't make sense to me, so that requires me to let go of what I know and really to take a leap of faith.
Right. And
believe that this can work differently.
Yep.
And that's why I think fear, because there's a risk, right? Fear does not require a risk. Faith does.
True. That's very, 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 very true. All right. See, this is why life works. Now I found what I wanted to, where I got to the, because this, like I said, before I begin, because copyright, making sure I'm doing it right. You okay with me reading this portion that I'm going to read? This is from chapter 4. It was mainly talking.
It's not too big of a chunk, you know what I mean? We want the States to get the book.
Oh, this no. This ain't no. I'm not going. I ain't gonna feed him. I can't give him a tea. I'm gonna give him a tablespoon.
All right, man, let's go.
All right. So it was mainly it was a midpoint. It was mainly you talking about suppressing feelings, and then there was a point that came up. Granted, I wasn't thinking about it. I wasn't thinking I need to do X, Y, Z so someone will love me or stick around. This wasn't my thought process. However, my actions reflected an unconscious belief that it was necessary to do that. It was like I had to go above and beyond to prove my love for someone, as though my love wasn't enough to on its own. See, those two issues. One, I felt like I had to perform for people to love me, and two, I felt like my love wasn't good enough. That's all I'm giving.
Yeah,
I ain't gonna
man,
see.
it's a heavy dose.
That was see because that was the one I was like, I can't copy this. No, I want it.
Yeah, you gave a full teaspoon.
That's right. Now that was a light one.
Yeah, there's some heavy stuff.
I didn't. I almost had the other rest of it, and I was like, no, the other rest of it is not a word, but yeah, you know what I mean.
I appreciate when you stop.
Yeah, no, I stopped. See, because the rest of it is where I was about. I said nope.
Yeah.
But yeah, that stood out. That really was a big chunk. And something that stands out to me now. Like I said, I just read that as a general teaser.
Yeah.
You don't have to give any thoughts about it unless you want to. You want to or no?
I'll keep talking. I'll think about
it. Okay. All right, then cool. I'll leave my other question on the side. There were so one point was talked about was hierarchy of relationships.
Yeah.
The relationship with God, relationship with yourself, relationship with others. We do well, most of us, in understanding if we have that relationship with God where we stand. Relationships with others, it's kind of how you feel if you deal with people or not. Relationship with yourself, I think, is the hardest part, in my opinion, at least, especially in reading it. Do you agree, or do you feel like it's kind of like an open-ended thought?
I agree. I do think, though, it stems to a deficiency with God.
Okay.
And so where there's a hierarchy of something, or there's a structure to something, whatever's at the bottom, the foundation,
right,
affects how well everything else stands.
Right.
So, like in the Bible, for example, it talks about, in the book of Matthew, it talks about two houses. There's a house that's built on the rock, and there's a house that's built on sand. Mm-hmm. When the storm comes, the house is built on a rock. It's fine.
Right.
But the house that's built on sand gets destroyed.
Yeah.
It's a matter of foundation.
Okay.
So, for example, God says that I'm loved. Now, I can know that, right? Just out of the sheer fact that I've heard it, right? But if I haven't received that and applied that to myself, there is a deficiency for me.
Yeah.
Because even though I know it's true, I don't necessarily believe it for myself.
Okay.
And so what happens is, if I don't believe that I'm loved by the very one who created me, I'm going to have issues with receiving love from people.
Right.
And even from myself, I'm limited because I haven't received from the source of unending love.
Yeah.
When you tap into that, then my love for myself can grow, and my love for people can grow. Okay. But if the one with God is off, and let me clarify, I don't mean perfect.
Yeah, just not.
I know we have these ideas of what people's relationships with God should look like, and that's a whole different conversation as well.
Yeah, you did talk about. I do remember you making some mention about perfection through the book.
Yes, but I'm referring to closeness with Him, and I'm referring to knowing that His truth applies to you.
Okay.
And when you're connected in that way, then it flows down to everything else.
Right.
So I think and it doesn't mean that I don't have legitimate issues with myself, but I believe that if I struggle with, for example, believing what's good about me, I think I need to revisit what He says about me. Because even in my trash, even in my worst state, God's like, nah, you it, girl.
Right.
He's like, you.
Yeah.
He's like, even knowing the things that you were going to do and have and say, like, I still thought you were it.
Yeah.
What? Right. And so, like, where there's that discrepancy there, I've got to revisit the truth. And what I feel is not always the truth.
Right. Okay. Well said. I felt
that when I said
See,
it.
that's what you, and that's how it should. Like, if you make a statement in that with that magnitude, it should carry that factor. I have one other question on 4 now, and I'll be honest, on chapter 5, like I said, I just put the main breakdown of it. I just put the name. I didn't really get information heavy from it, so I'll let you give what you want to give on that, and then I have like a few general questions that I'll ask, and then we'll do our wrap up. It was one point that you said being dysfunctional in relationships. This kind of caught me because a little bit. The first thing I thought of is it made the comparison of being dysfunctional in relationships compared to being in dysfunctional relationships. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like how do those battle one another, especially when you look at the unhealthy relationship factor?
I think that by you being dysfunctional, you can create a dysfunctional relationship. Okay. I think there can be a person who is healthy and not perfect, someone who is healthy that functions well in relationships that comes your way. Right. And that relationship in itself can be functional. Mm-hmm. But when you have unresolved dysfunction and unhealthy stuff that you refuse to work on, right, you have then polluted the relationship, and it now becomes dysfunctional because you're not even moving in the same direction. Right. You're not communicating in the same way, and it doesn't mean you're intentionally doing it. Yeah. Right. So you yourself as the dysfunctional person can create a dysfunctional thing. True. And then if you're talking about toxic relationships altogether, both of y'all dysfunctional. And it's just, bro, it is. And it's just toxicity on top of toxicity. And that is just a whole train wreck.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So like I said, chapter 5.
Did you have another question on chapter 4?
No. Okay. You good. Unless it was something that you thought of. Mm-mm. Did you want to go back to the other thought you had?
No, I don't think so. Okay. I think it will, but if something comes up, I'll let you know.
All right, got you. Because I know, like I said, the only other statements that stuck with me, I did have striving for perfection with relationships and life. I did have finding your voice, how important that is. What? There you go. Yes. See? There you go. All right, cool.
Oh, man.
See? Be Mike on my own show. Listen, all right, cool.
I just want to say that, I've grown a lot, and the woman that I am currently, wow, it's kind of miraculous. Right. And I'm grateful.
Absolutely.
One of the things specifically I would say over the last year or so is having people around you that will be honest with you. It is important to have, we often think about, I need a safe space where I can always give people information or be myself. Sometimes you need safety in being able to feel safe enough to receive from people. Some of my tendencies came from the honesty of people that were very close to me. Mm-hmm. And some of that is what helped. There is somebody very specific that told me they were concerned that I wouldn't have a voice. Right. And, immediately you're like, well, no, that's not. But then, here's the thing about people you trust is when they speak things, and I'm the type, if I trust you and I give you access to speak over me and to speak honestly that way to me, even if I don't respond or receive it immediately, I'm putting it in my back pocket. And I'm going to then consider and watch. Typically what happens is I'm like, oh, you were right.
That wound was not meant to be bothered, but thank you.
Yeah, and then you can start to address it. Yeah. And so I have, I'm not 18. You know what I'm saying? Right. I'm really at this stage of my life just starting to find and use my voice. And that means multiple things. Yeah. That means, do you want to do this today? Mm-hmm. No, I don't. Right. Do you like this? No, I don't. Yeah. What are your thoughts on this? Here's how I really feel about it. And that can come in multiple forms, but the reality is what you have to say is important. And your thoughts are important. And people need to hear what you have to say. It doesn't mean you be obnoxious and you're knocking everybody over with your opinions, but it means that when it's productive to contribute or to share in a relationship or whatever the context is, that you do that. Right. Because you have value to add. Mm-hmm. And so, Yeah, that's a really, really big one. And it's so empowering and it's freeing to be able to speak up. And, you know, sometimes we don't speak up because we feel like people are going to leave.
Right.
Or we feel like people won't agree and it's going to cause this contention. But it's really reassuring, which is also why it's so important to have safe people around you, is where you can express yourself and they're still there.
Right.
That will also help build your confidence. And it sounds silly maybe, but practice on the people that you trust.
Yeah, because that gives you a good starting point.
Yeah, and those are people that are going to back you even if they disagree.
Right. Okay. Dang, she said I ain't had nothing else, and then I forgot. I had this big bold part. We push away the things we want the most, which kind of ties into the power of fear. So that's the only other one I had. So if you want to expound on that a little bit or break that down.
I mean, I've seen this personally. I have done this personally. We're so afraid of pain. Pain sucks.
Right.
It hurts. Like, I'm not here to be like, you should never, don't be afraid of pain. Listen.
I felt that, yeah.
Listen, I'm not finna hurt. I don't want.
Yeah, no one thrives off of.
No one's like, you know what I think I want to do today? I think I want heartbreak. Or, you know what? I think I want to just have a gash in my arm. Like, no one does that.
Yeah.
It's a matter of how you deal with it when it comes. But I think, that piece really speaks to us being so used to loss and damage and defeat that we can't even always identify when something looks different or something feels different. Anytime something comes, we automatically associate it with the bad things that have happened to us. And so we push it away.
Right.
Even if the inside of us can feel it, like, even though it looks like it could be what you used to have, it's different.
Right.
Because that's hard.
Oh yeah.
That's hard. When you've had a string of like devastation and trauma.
No time to recover.
Listen, I've been there. That's hard.
Right.
To then have something good show up in front. You're almost kind of like, who's finna punk me today?
Yeah, what's
like who?
Like what's next on tap? What we got?
Right, like when's the ball gonna drop? Like someone's playing a joke on me.
Right.
It feels almost too good to be true.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. All right. I didn't leave anything out. That was all I had on chapter 4.
Bet.
So now this is no longer my podcast. It is now the Ramona R show. I'm just gonna be chilling. I'm just gonna kind of be reading off. I'm kind of the prompter now, just running the show.
So funny, yeah.
That's how I told you. This is a chill. This is a space to just kind of let your shots off. Let it be real.
Yeah.
And that is also a coincidence of why when we get to chapter 5, the term "ugly beautiful" comes into play. Like I said, I didn't put any bullet points, put any main key factors, but if there's anything that stands out that you want to speak on regarding it, you can. If not, then I'm gonna, let you rock. But
I'll say this about the book as a whole with how I wrote it.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at it, like when you read it, it's process.
Yes.
Is really what it is. And it's called Ugly Beautiful because so often we want these awesome results and we don't want process, first of all.
Right.
But if we, happen to, grace the process with our presence, we want it to be pretty.
Right.
We don't want, we don't want the trenches. We don't want the blood, sweat, and tears. And understandably so. I don't like those times.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that had it not been for some of the worst moments in my life, I would not be who I am today.
Right.
And so this is kind of like, I don't call it the end of a process, but it can be the transition to a different process.
Okay.
That is full of hope, even when life is still hurtful.
Yeah.
And so I really won't talk about chapter 5. I'd like for people to read it and have their own experience.
Yeah, smart move. Look at the podcast moment. All right, that's all right. Air horns was waiting. But that's cool. Yeah. I'm becoming a better producer. That's good. Okay. I'm with that.
Yeah.
That's a good lead for it. So I have 3 simple questions I'm gonna ask. And then actually, you know what? I got 4.
Okay.
And then we'll do my ending.
Bet.
First, it's not listed. Well, I'll give a statement and then it'll be a question. Mm-hmm. So I did I read the book, as I mentioned. I have, and I'll mark this to make sure I remember it. Mm-hmm. But the actual songs that you put as the recommended songs, if you have Spotify, I have made a list of those songs.
Did you, sir?
Yeah, I got a little creators create.
Come on, creative.
Yeah, you got when you know you know. So because each one of those songs were helpful for each breakdown of each section. So speaking on music, what are your go-to songs? Like, what is your? If we got in Ramona's car right now, we about to roll down the block. What we playing around the city?
Right now, probably a couple different things. But I'll say what I was listening to on the way over. Mm-hmm. The Chris Brown was a Young Thug, I think he did an album with. Okay. They have a song I love called "I Got Time." I love it.
I know what you're talking about. Okay.
What? So I was hitting that real hard on the way here. All right. There is a church called All Nations Worship Assembly in Chicago. Dr. Matthew Stevenson is the pastor of the whole church, but they put out an album.
Okay.
What? So earlier today, I was listening to two of the songs. One I think is called "For Your Glory," and the other one, which is my favorite, called "Yahweh." Okay. Oh my gosh, it's so good.
Okay. I'll throw it in the Spotify queue later on. All right. So with our music, so like I said, because like I told you, this is a podcast about sports and stuff. I'm not gonna hit you on the sports. Don't worry.
You would be disappointed.
No, you good. I'm gonna save you trouble. When you know, you know. But being that writing is a sport.
Yes, I like it. Come on, creative.
Who are some authors you look up to?
This is gonna sound really terrible.
No, it's not.
I actually have not really done a whole lot of reading before this year.
I'm not gonna knock you.
And I think a lot of writers are like this. I'm not really easily impressed
because you're a hard critic.
Yeah.
As a writer.
It's the same way like when I go to like conferences and seminars, because I'm a teacher of adults and because I facilitate, like I'm as a student, I'm like,
this ain't rocking, but I'm gonna rock with it as best as I can.
It's the same sort of thing. I'm trying to think of who wrote a really good book that I read that I really liked. Actually, a really good book that I read this year that I really, really liked. His name is Dr. Matthew Stevenson, the one who he wrote a book called The Prophetic Responsibility. Okay. Wow. Okay. I mean, it was really good, well written. Yeah. What else did I read? Let me look and see what else I read real quick. Actually, you know who wrote an excellent book? And we already talked about her, so I'll shout her out again. All right. Two people who wrote, and these are local people, so I'm just doing a couple shout outs.
That's
Tiara
fine.
Owens wrote a book called Lame.
All right.
Wow.
Good book. Okay.
I don't often say I'm easily impressed by people's writing. It's not because I'm that amazing. It's just the style that I like.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people execute. Tiara's book.
Okay.
If you've not read that, I need you to
put that in the queue. Put that in the flow. All right.
It is so good. It's so well written. It's really honest. Mm-hmm. And it's got really good teaching. I'm the type of, I don't like a lot of unnecessary fluff. So like, I don't like longer books, and it's not because I mind reading them so much. Mm-hmm. It's just typically a lot of times people put a lot of fluff. Yeah. And for me, I'm like,
excuse me.
Even if you're adding context, like it should be substantial and should be valuable. Right. I like for everything to kind of play a purpose. Who else? A friend of mine, her name is Tamika L. Webb, wrote a book called Broken into Position. Okay. Wow, I read that. Actually, I read hers, I think, in one sitting.
Wow.
Tiara's I read in, I think, 3 days.
All right.
So good.
Okay.
Such great books, and I'll also shout out my pastor, Pastor J. Patrick.
Yeah.
Has written a few books. His book called The Millennial Manual. Okay. Dope. So those are a few people. I know they're not the famous ones, but they're really really good.
Doesn't matter. Is what book
but
is
they
out
will
there.
Be saints.
Yeah, there
Remember
you go.
These names.
Yeah. I mean, it's about it's about where your fame is, and also what you're doing with your message. If your message reaches the right person, you've done your job.
Talk that talk.
Yeah, just what it is. So that actually you kind of killed two questions with one response, which is fine because we already talked about the books you've already read. so that's cool.
Oh,
No. That works. Cause
let me plug another book though.
Yeah, that's fine.
That is excellent. A book called Relationship Goals by Pastor Mike Todd.
Okay.
Listen.
All right.
So I went into this book like, oh, well, I'm not married, so like, I'll get a little dating advice.
Yeah. You got snatched.
I said, what you're not gonna do.
Just call me out on this.
And I was like, okay, cool. Here's the marriage chapter. I can sit this one out. Here's this chapter. I can sit this one out. I said, okay.
Still.
He just came and like plucked my edges like individually,
right.
And I was like, this is how we're gonna do. So excellent book. Everyone should read that book.
Okay. All right. Like I said, because I have to, of course, be editor and get words. I'll make sure I go and listen to get those books written, and I'll place them in the show notes. Let me put that mark for it. Yeah. That way we can press, do some plug.
Come on, Jesus.
So last question before my favorite part.
Hey.
Creatives. If there are any creatives that you personally can relate to as a creator.
Wow.
Favorite.
Okay.
See?
Okay.
We ain't got to the best part.
Man.
You need some theme music?
I might.
All right.
Wow.
I'm not gonna play it because no copyrights coming for me. Hey.
Who are some creatives? Man, I feel like I need to like go to my Instagram feed or something.
Need a moment? Okay. All right. I'll be fair. I'll give you time to think on it. And if we come up with some post show, we'll have them for the next run.
Okay, but
all right. Now I'm putting you in the hot seat.
Okay.
Because this is the tell all be all. Yeah, this is the wrap up because this.
All right.
But because it's gonna be based on what you say is how it wraps up because this is
this
always
the accountability piece.
Oh yeah, this is. But I always love doing this part of the show, and anyone that comes on my show, it is a requirement for my show.
Let's go.
As you know, the title of the show is called The Past.
Yes.
Everyone who comes on, I like to let them close out with a message. Okay. It's referenced as pass the message. Okay. I know we've passed a lot of information along to the listeners, and you can go back and eat, sleep, be merry, and read and get some awesome gems that have been shared on this show. But even with those things being shared, unless there's something else, or if you have something specific, what is a message you'd like to pass to the listeners for the show?
Wow.
And I can't skip this one. I gave you one pass.
I appreciate it.
All right, no doubt.
Man, I would say, believe again. That's what I would say.
Okay. Simple.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in our world. There's a lot going on, I think, in people's personal lives. Mm-hmm. And I think everybody has, whatever it is, has at some point in their lives believed for something. Mm. Whatever it is, whether it's, whether it's a job that you thought, a career that you at one point saw that you were going to pursue, whether it's getting married, whether it's getting a new car, whether it's buying a home, whatever. Sometimes life and its disappointments can kind of kill our beliefs in our own dreams and in our aspirations. Okay. But I would say inject some life back into those dreams. Get your dreams back. Okay. That's what I would say. And pursue those things. You can have everything that you want and more. You can have it. I don't care the circumstance. I mean, if you get into some, corrupt, I can't co-sign. You know what I'm saying? There's some things I can't co-sign on, but I'm just saying.
I got you.
Whatever you want. If you want to own a house, guess what? What do you need to do to get it? Yeah. And work on it. If you want to get married, like, are you sitting in the house all day? Are you trying to meet new people? Yeah. Do you want to write a book? Get a journal or whatever. Do you want to sing? Start. Get your confidence in your dreams. They if you have seen it and you know that it's for your life at some point, then it is so. Yeah. And declaring it and claiming it is great. Right. But if you ain't finna do anything about it, they're just gonna sit on the shelf. Get up and grab those dreams. They're yours. Yeah. Fight for your dreams. Fight for your life.
Okay. That's real. That's a good one, because that's literally, and it's funny because that was a status I put up probably about a week or so ago. I was like, there are planners they're executors, and they're unicorns. Some people plan great, some people execute even greater, but when you can put them together, that's awesome.
And there are very few of those.
Oh yeah, I'm still in progress with both almost.
You know who's a creative that I like a lot? I'm a big fan of his, first of all.
Okay.
Forgive me if he's controversial.
No, that's fine.
But he comes to mind. Chris Brown is such a creative.
Yeah.
He's somebody that I follow. I love his music. But he has such a passion just to create.
Yeah.
He's a songwriter. He's a singer. He's a dancer. He's an actual artist.
Right.
He's a clothing designer. He is somebody that, and he doesn't have limits on what he does.
Right.
Now, is everything that he puts out my style? No. Like some of his artwork, I don't get.
Yeah.
You know who else? Solange.
Yeah. No.
Dope creative. Do I understand everything she does? I don't. No. I'm not gonna lie and tell you I understand every video. I'd be like, I'm just not deep enough.
Yeah, no, I got you.
But
yeah, her last album, I think people got annoyed with me. I think I was playing it.
Bro, so good. So good.
I played it in the ground.
Janae Aiko is another creative that I really like.
Okay.
I appreciate real creatives, can't be afraid.
Yeah.
To express themselves in ways that won't make sense to other people.
Okay.
I love, and I'm not there yet.
I got you.
But I love like hardcore creatives. Which, what's really funny about this? And I'll shut up. I know.
No, you good. No. I told you. They don't care what I sound like. Go.
That I never really referred to myself as a creative, even though I know I am one, until recently.
You have a book.
I do.
You're a creative.
I am.
It's time to speak. And all right, no, go ahead, because I'm gonna pass my message. So go ahead.
No, I feel like you're about to give me the business.
Yeah.
But really, it wasn't until like over this last year where I really realized that at the core, like, I'm a creative.
Okay.
And I'm starting to tap into that and like what that means. So
right.
I'm not just a writer, I'm a singer. I like to write songs.
Exactly.
I need to get back to learning to play piano. I played as a kid, and then I didn't. You don't use it, you lose it, kids.
Yep.
Another message.
Huge message.
But there are lots of things that I know I'm meant to create and do, and so it's just really within the last year that I've embraced that about myself, and that's been really awesome. But you know where that came through? That came through tragedy.
Right. Okay.
That's how I came to the discovery.
Gotcha.
It's because this book didn't come without tragedy.
Of course,
it came through. And you're a creative, so you know that a lot of your most profound things typically come from
something unexpected. Yep.
Yeah.
That's a reality. And it's funny because like a lot of people don't realize it. I started 2008. So it's been almost 12 years. Actually, over 12 years. Wow. I started a quote queue. And at first it was like 6 people. And to some it may just be like, okay, you just sent out a quote. I'm like, this is a form of being creative.
Yes.
Because a lot of them, some of them I generated from others. Others were just, you know what, I gotta throw it. Here you go, share it, and it just became a thing. But it was 6 people who I was initially sending it to through text. I think now it's 24 people.
Yeah.
And they send it to other people, and then of course, now that we have social media, I put it on Instagram and flood it everywhere. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's all about being creative and knowing what your creative capability is. Thank you for that message.
Yeah.
Most importantly, my message I'm gonna pass along is don't stop creating. Just like you said, believe it, don't stop believing. I'm not gonna sing the song because I don't want to get copywritten.
Oh, I'm about to bust into something. Glad you said it.
I gotta, because I'm still working on that disclaimer intro. We ain't did it yet, and my friends we had that conversation yesterday, pre-production, and still it's something that's gonna be fun. But it's coming soon. But yeah, so thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. I'm glad I was able to introduce you. Now, before I do want to ask, is this your first podcast you've done?
I recorded one last week, but she's in California, so it was over the phone. This is my first.
Your first face-to-face? Okay.
This is my first.
How'd you enjoy it?
I loved it.
Okay.
Like, I feel like I could
So you ready?
do this for hours.
So you ready to do a podcast now?
Yeah.
All right. So whenever you ready, I'm telling you as a fellow creative, whatever I can help you try to do, I'm gonna do what I can.
I appreciate that. I'm certainly leveraging.
Yeah, because I know for a fact that from podcasting, it's not. Everyone looks at it and thinks, "Oh, you just get on the mic and talk." I'm like, no, it's a lot of work. But if you're willing to put, it's all about allocating time. Because most people know me. Every other Saturday, it's podcast day.
Yeah.
So you just do what your craft is. Wherever God is taking you, like embrace it and just continue with your brand, with what you're doing. If I can promote whatever I can, just push it along. I'm all about, because I think that's what we're doing, what we've been doing wrong. And I'm working hard on that because a couple years ago, it was, my quote for the year was brand like you mean it.
That's good.
Yeah. I had brand like you mean it. And I think one year was be reliable, which led to my designing business that I just started, which was still a shocking moment.
What do you design?
I do logos and web designs.
Oh.
Yeah. And it's a coincidence because that's how, when I met Tiara, that was one of her, So I'm kind of like the baby learning stages, but I'm also beginning to learn that me and my Mac are just going to be BFFs forever. So, well, BFFs obviously, but all of that being said, like, thank you. I'm glad you.
Real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to say this because I think it's important, and you said it, and I think it's really important. So one of the things, like with whatever I'm building, I have a small business as well. This book, and whatever this all blooms into, one of the things that's been very, very important to me, even me getting on other people's podcasts, my thought process is always, how can I help somebody else in their endeavors?
Absolutely.
That's so important to me. And I agree. We don't do that well all the time. Everybody's kind of scratching for the top. Listen, I don't mind being in the back.
Yeah, I'm good.
I have zero problem with that.
Yeah.
And I want everything that I do to not just be like, oh, Ramona's awesome, Ramona's great. It's like, Ramona's great, but like, who helped her be great?
Yeah.
You know, so
absolutely.
Like, even in my book, like, I made sure people knew who the photographer was, who did my hair, who did my makeup, who did the book. Like, that's important to me.
Right.
Even on, you know, even now, like on this interview, like, I didn't give names of people that everybody knew, but I gave some dope names of really amazing people. And like, I always think about, how can someone else win as I'm trying to win? That's so important to me. And then the other thing I want to say, like, which I'm very passionate about, is like, I don't gravitate towards big names so much.
Right.
So like, I know people that are popping that like can style me, but like, I went to the girl who I knew was good, but like is just starting to build. Yeah. Like, Tiara is good. You know what I mean? But she's not like millions of people yet. Yeah. Like, I love to find underdogs, and I love to find people like who's building, like who's starting to build. Like, I love to catch the undiscovered talent. I love it. I live for it. I'm passionate about it. So anyway, I just wanted to say that, like, because I think it's important to support everybody who's building, as long as, you know, it's quality. You can co-sign on them. You can co-sign on everybody.
Yeah, premium content here only. Only.
So I think that's great. I just wanted to kind of co-sign because I'm very passionate about that.
No doubt. Well, like, you know, as you mentioned that, I'm just a little podcast in this big world, but I'm out here tiptoeing to 300. So
that's a huge deal. Some people probably don't make it to 10.
Shh, we need to talk about that. Because it's happened a few times. I've watched it, but we're not gonna speak bad. It's just,
we still think you're winners.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I mean, everybody rocking, but it's just what it is. But yeah, final and anything plugs, anything you want to promote, we'll make sure I'll throw it in the show notes. You want to promote your business?
You can go to my social media and find me at ramona.josette, ramona.josette on both Facebook and Instagram. My website is www.ramonajosette.com. That's where you'll be able to get the book. The book will officially be available for pre-orders next week, and will be on sale on August 28th. So come find me on social media, connect with me. If you heard the podcast, let us know. tell us how great we were.
No doubt. Yeah, look, see.
If we were trash, tell us that too.
Be Mike on my own show. Won't he do it? Look at that. I ain't even mad. No, I'm just kidding. It's fine. I'm glad you were. I'm glad to have you on again.
Thank you.
I appreciate you offering everything. Just 2% question: are you gonna do a book signing? Or are you just gonna kind of be light about it?
This is funny.
Somebody else asked that.
Multiple people have asked about this.
Okay.
Actually,
I mean, we speaking something that you
I
just ain't
thought
thinking
about that. However, I don't think I'm going to this go round. For 2 reasons: A, expenses.
True.
B, COVID makes that really difficult.
This is true. Yeah,
and I feel like, not just for me, but I feel like it would take away from the experience of people who would even come to that.
Right.
That you really can't be free like that.
Yeah.
Because COVID's out here. So I have the concept for book 2 already.
Okay.
I'm going to dive into that. So maybe when I do book 2, I'd like to do something like that. But I just don't know that.
That's fair.
Current state of affairs.
No, 100%. No,
we can
that's solid.
that well.
Gotcha. No doubt. All right. Well, another awesome show in the books.
Whoop, whoop.
Don't know if I'm going to be back to sports because I have not had anything on TV to watch too much. So I've been in tech world, just keeping up. So we'll see what's in store as 288 is around the corner. And until next time, again, I have Ramona on the show. Hopefully this won't be the last show. As I tell people, come back for another show and we'll talk about that communication piece.
Bruh, let's do it.
But yeah, as always, this is BT. This is the past BT, and we're signing out. Y'all take it easy.
Really appreciate all the support, all the listens, all the likes, all the effort that goes into anyone who has provided any form of content for the past. We're signing out now, but you definitely don't want to miss what's in store for the upcoming episode. If you are interested in getting more information or becoming a podcaster, you can check out buzzsprout.com. And the microphone that you are hearing me use is the Blue Yeti X. I had been using a Yeti for a while. I went back to the Samsung Meteor, but now I'm using the Blue Yeti X, which is everything. Trust me. All social medias, the Pass BT. That's THE, Pass, as in pass the ball. BT is my initials. And finally, if you are a creator and you want to support a fellow creator, subscribe, like, and comment on the Pass. Until next time, this is your host, BT, signing out.